Codependency sucks, and literally it sucks the life out of you. I come from a family that all the women have codependency, and I didn't recognize it for a long time. When I finally did recognize it, I didn't know what to do about it. When I started reading books, I got so angry I couldn't even get through 3 pages without having to put it down. And it was just a lot of bad news and no good news. And so I felt really discouraged. And I, like many of us, thought that codependency was enabling an addict. And so I felt like, well, if I'm not living with an addict and enabling them, then I can't be codependent, right? Wrong. So when I realized that's not true, and when I realized that even addicts can be codependents, and that I was probably in a relationship with another codependent, it got really complicated and very discouraging. And I didn't know what that meant for me. That was years ago. I moved back to be with family after the lockdown, when it looked like we were going to lock down again. And codependency has been up for me a few times very strongly. And I feel like it's been up not just on a personal level, but a global level. So it definitely feels heavier than it probably would if it was just this one family dynamic. But just a knowingness inside I have that it's not just our family lineage that is coming up to be healed. I've talked to other people that also have codependency up to heal. And so many of us are working on it. Anyway, back to my story. I'm standing there. I feel like I'm getting sucked in to a complicated dynamic that I don't want to be in. My truth is one thing, she's saying another, but I feel like she's wanting to rescue my mom, but she's not wanting to do it. And she's getting angry and wanting me to offer to do it. And when I'm not offering to do it, she's getting worked up more and more. And so I felt like I was being put in a position of, she feels like my mom needs to be rescued. She doesn't want to do it. So she wants me to rescue my mom and her. And I felt resentful and agitated, and I didn't want to jump into the rescuer role because that wasn't my truth. And then when I didn't, then she jumped into the persecutor role. And then she was angry, and then she was lashing out. And then I felt like I needed to step into the rescuer role, or I was in the victim role. And then I was getting agitated and I jumped into the persecutor role. So it was frustrating. We were both getting angry, and I could recognize the codependency dynamic, but I couldn't shift out of it at that point. So I knew that I could choose to do what she wanted me to do and say, okay, I'll rescue mom, even though that wasn't my truth, and then resent it. Or I could say, this is my truth, I'm not going to be the rescuer. And then, there's all the guilt with that. There's the having to walk on eggshells around her because I didn't do what she wanted me to do. And, quite possibly if I don't do that, then my mom's going to freeze and it's going to be on me. Like, all of this was there. Instead of making any of those choices and reacting and jumping into reaction mode with her, I just decided to walk away from it and just leave it there, leave her story there and walk away. And then when I walked away, I had all this anger and, resentment, and feeling like, why do I have to be in this situation? Why do I feel like I have to get into someone else's creation and act the way they want me to act? And I recognized the old pattern of when she would get upset in the past, whatever she needed, I would jump in and rescue. And this was kind of double because she wanted to rescue my mom, but she wanted me to rescue her and my mom. And in the past, I would just do that. When I was 13, she had to have surgery, and she had a dance studio, and she just expected that I would jump in and take over her dance studio. And at 13, I had a lot going on. I had my own life, but instead I would go straight from school, teach all the dance classes, and took that responsibility on. I wasn't asked to do it. It was expected of me. And so this is a pattern that I saw come up. And I saw that I had the choice to do that, but it didn't feel right this time. And so I walked away feeling like I wasn't seeing clearly, but stepped back from it and recognized the Cartman triangle, drama triangle, which is 3 roles that are normally present in a relationship that is mostly or contains manipulation, or is primarily manipulative. And you'll be in one of those 3 roles when you're in this dynamic, which is the rescuer, where you feel like you need to rescue someone, the victim, which needs to be rescued, and then the persecutor, which goes into attack mode, blaming, that sort of thing. And so when I saw the dynamic that was happening and how we were switching roles, I recognized that. And usually you want to recognize it when you're in the situation so that you can step out of it. And I did do that. I did step out of it instead of jumping into the rescuer. And then that made her angry. And then she went into persecutor role. And then I had a choice to go into the victim, which I didn't want to do. I did briefly, and then I stepped out of it because it felt awful. I did the same with rescuer. And then when that wasn't working and I felt backed into a corner, then I had the choice to go into persecutor role, which I started to, and then I stepped back because it didn't feel good anymore. So ideally, when we can recognize this in the moment, we can decide to get out of the triangle. I wasn't able to do that successfully, and that's why it started kind of downward spiraling, and I got lost in it. So because of that, I decided to, instead of making any decision, I decided to alchemize the anger, because I was angry. I was angry that she wanted to rescue someone. I was angry that she was playing out a story that was in the future. It wasn't even true. She was projecting all of this in the future. I was angry that she was making someone else's problem her own. And I was angry that she expected me to jump into this with her, to jump into her projection of fear and her projection of how it was going to go. And I was angry that she expected me to rescue her when she was the one that thought someone needed to be rescued. So I just felt all this anger. And so I knew that making any decision from that point would still have this energy charge in it. So I decided to alchemize it. And I did some that night, and then I went to sleep, and then I did some the next day to shift the anger. And when I'm looking at it, the normal person that is involved with just a manipulative relationship, and they have this triangle going on, normally they can kind of navigate their own part in it. When you have 2 codependent people, it feels like it's It's suffocating because they are all in your problem. They make your problem their problem, and when they're trying to rescue you, it feels horrible. It doesn't feel empowering. It feels bad. With the codependent, they are in the triangle, but they want you to be in the triangle too, and so it feels more complicated than just the average person in a relationship that has a conflict. You know, two people that are in a relationship that get into an argument, they can recognize, okay, you're in this role, I'm in this role. If we both step back, let's try that, right? But with a codependent, it's you're in this role and I need to fix you, and I don't have anything to do with this normally. So it makes it a bit harder. So that's the thing that codependents do that I didn't recognize for a long time, is that they will make someone else's problems their own. So they will obsess, and I've done this myself. So I will say we will obsess about someone else and spend hours, days, weeks, months trying to come up with solutions for them. We will try and fix the situation. We will blame. We will, see ways that they need to fix and do things differently, and then we're going to come up with the way that they can do that. And then if they don't, then we get angry and we blame again, and then we, so it's this cycle that's absolutely draining. And the whole thing is codependence will focus and project everything on another person because they do not want to feel everything inside of them. Codependents will also get angry, and they have a fear of abandonment because when they're alone, there's nobody else to focus on except themselves. And it's a fear of abandonment because they've abandoned themselves. We've abandoned ourselves. And so when I see that happening, that's my chance to go, okay, I can let them handle their problems. They are completely competent to handle this. If they need my help, if they need my opinions, they can come to me. And then I can just say, what is it? Just sink back into myself and just stay seated there and feel what's there for me. If something they're doing upsets me, then that's my feelings to look at, not my chance to fix them or their situation. And so, I've been working on this for years now, and so when a situation like this comes up where it just really knocks me over, it's frustrating, and it brings up stuff because I'm in this dynamic again, and this person is expecting me to do this old thing that I used to do. And oftentimes we can feel like we're being pulled into our old selves again, and it feels that way, but it's just another layer to move through. I couldn't see that when I was in it, and I had to move the energy around it. There's still energy there. I had a situation today where I had something that I needed to do, and somebody else had something, a drama with someone, and they needed help with it. And so I got pulled into that for a little bit, and instead of setting the boundary, which is what we have to work on as codependents, instead of saying, this is what I need to do right now, I'm here for you, but this isn't a good time, or something like that, I stayed and listened and spent time with their problem instead of taking care of what I needed to take care of. And as someone that grew up in a codependent family, being selfish was something that we were not allowed to do. We were not allowed to be selfish, and we were not allowed to be angry. And so when I first started working with setting boundaries, that came up, that programming came up very strongly of, if I set this boundary, I'm being selfish. I should really be helping this person. And it gets tricky, because being selfless and selflessly giving to others is different than constantly sacrificing yourself because someone else has a drama that's going on, because they're not doing their work, and they're focused on all these other people. There's constantly going to be this drama triangle, and until we get off of the triangle and really start being selfish and giving to ourselves, giving us what we need, focusing on what I feel, focusing on what needs to be healed in me, then it's constant. It's a constant energy suck. It is constantly going to drain us, leave us feeling exhausted, and just take away who we are. After being in a mutually codependent relationship, I started losing myself when I was just doing whatever they expected me to do over and over and over and over again. It's people pleasing. It's, I don't want to be selfish. I need to just give to them. But when someone's constantly in that triangle and never focusing on themselves, then it's a constant energy pulling, and they want your energy. And I was in that boat as a codependent and drama addict. I would constantly be pulling other people's energy without even knowing it. And then that is the codependent part that you can't live without, because then if those people go away, you don't have any energy. You don't have any. And so, there's also the fear of abandonment, because you've abandoned yourself so much. So when they go away, you don't have an identity, because all of your attention and energy has been on other people. So you've been identifying with other people and as they are, and who are they, and I've been fixing their problems, and I've been giving my energy to them. And so if they go away, which is usually inevitable in a very unhealthy relationship like this, when they go away, you don't have an identity outside of them. So many independent seeming people are very codependent. All of the women in my family are very independent, strong, take charge, take care of things, make things happen kind of people. But they're not doing it necessarily for themselves. They're doing it for everybody else around them. And then getting angry when that person doesn't do what they've suggested, when they don't do what their solutions are, when they don't, allow them to rescue them. So it's an entangled web that many of us are working through right now to heal for good. And I want to let you know that if you have worked on this for years and healed so much of it, and it's up for you again, and you feel lost in it, or you feel like, it's just heavy stuff to move right now, that you're not alone, and it's not personal. And I got a strong message to that it's important to share all of this. It's important when you're lost, like I was just a few days ago in it, to take that scenario and to share it. That sharing everything that we're learning is part of the healing, an essential part of the healing. And for so long, I felt like I needed to keep the broken bits to myself until the healing had already occurred. And that's never been true, but especially now, it's not true, because we're moving this together. We're moving karmic energy. So this is just karmic collective energy that's showing up as codependency. We're also moving other pockets of karma that looks like narcissism, that looks like abuse, that looks like you name it. We're moving a ton of it. And whatever it is that is coming up for you, it's probably not just your own. And when we're just moving ancestral energy or lineage energy from our families, it feels heavier and it feels a little bit more stuck sometimes. But it is coming up because if we're all capable of moving it, we're all capable of alchemizing it, and these are our medicine ultimately. So, if you are having addictions that seem to be coming back and reactivating, that's another one that we are shifting and moving and blowing up. It's okay. You're not alone. And we're all here, and it helps. It helps to share it. It helps to talk about it. It helps to move it out with words and with just energy and with alchemizing and with just sometimes just sitting in it, and sometimes just feeling the absolute brokenness of it while you're in it, and then being able to look at it, observe it, love it, and sometimes just acknowledge it, that it's there and that you're here to be with it. So, and you'll know what is called for when it comes up, and when, sometimes it looks like just burning it up in a fire, and sometimes it looks like sitting down with it like a friend. And as long as we're not ignoring it, as long as we're not trying to push it away or judge it or feel shame about it, and I think that's part of the sharing it as well, is saying, hey, I'm not going to hide away in shame. I'm going to share this because it's part of me and it's part of you. And if you're not ready to see that right now, you will be at some point, just like I was. Some of us are very stubborn, and it takes us a bit, and then we finally say, okay, I'm willing to move this and look at it and not identify with it and make it personal and make it something that gives me a certain characteristic, I guess. When I'm feeling shameful about something, I make it part of me, and it's easy to compartmentalize things that we're not proud of, and then that becomes part of our identity, what we identify with, and a role and an aspect of us that we can, that's something that I don't deal with, that's something that I push away, that's something that I don't share with other people, and then that part of you is locked in as a permanent part of who you are. So when we're able to just share it with other people, that's helping us to not identify with it as this is who I am, because I'm sharing it with you. I'm sharing it with you, which makes it part of the collective. It's out there for everyone. to do with what they please. So I hope that makes sense, and I know that I'm not alone in this. I know that other people are going through this, and I would love to hear what you've been experiencing and how it's going. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is. Just keep sharing it.